I wasted my early adult life gaming, the early 2000s equivalent of a neckbeard if you like. Then I had to take care of a dying parent from my mid-20s until my mid-30s. Since then, I've improved myself but never really dated. I don't want to debate on age gaps. And no, I can't date women near my age as they almost appear like mother figures to me. There's a huge gap in experience, plus there's been no chance for my preferences to adjust to my age group. I want to know how to turn this creepy attraction to women in their 20s off as it's making me miserable. Everywhere I go, there are young women and younger people in their social circles. It's a constant reminder of the life I missed out on. Yes, maybe I'm a creep. Whatever. But I need to put the idea of finding a partner aside and move on with whatever is left of life. But with no experience, how do I do this? Okay. The question in the post is, how do I move on with life? It isn't justifying men my age going after 20-year-olds. I don't want to find a mail-order bride or become a sugar daddy either. Also, mother figures was a terrible way of putting it. Someone who seems much older, like a generation older. A lot of people also can't seem to differentiate between privately finding someone attractive and acting on it. Story 1. Get out in the world and gain some life experience. You will meet interesting people this way too, which will only help your case. Turn your sob story into a, "Yeah, that was my hand, but here is how I am going to play it from now on," type of narrative. Your internal narrative about yourself and your life is hugely important, and other people can sense that from a mile away. To connect with good, happy people, be a good, happy person. Story 2. Sorry, but you will most likely have nothing in common with someone in their 20s. It seems like you are having some difficulty accepting that you are growing older. I understand that you want to sort of redo your 20s and experience that youth again, but someone in their 40s trying to be someone in their 20s is not a good look. Think of that man saying, "How do you do, fellow kids?" Story 3. I would say it looks a bit like a case of some arrested development, which is sort of understandable in your situation. It's different than if you were a 44-year-old guy with extensive experience, preying on naive, dependent partners. I honestly have no idea what to advise you, except talking to a specialist who knows better. As a woman who used to date much older guys in my 20s, first, I regret it a lot, so I can't tell you to just give it a try to demystify young girls, and also, second, I wasn't doing this to teach them relationships. The biggest part of the appeal was that they were supposed to know, to be more mature, and to have their act together. If you're hoping people will differentiate between having some preferences you can't really do anything about, and acting on them, you're going to be very disappointed. Story 4. This is quite possibly going to be buried among the several hundred comments here, but I'll give it a shot anyway. You will never get any meaningful interaction with women until you change your attitude. Your problem is that you see women as objects and have no meaningful way to relate to them as persons. The fact that you find women in their 20s more attractive than women your own age speaks truth to this. You're attracted to the way they look and behave as sexual objects, not as persons. Furthermore, you reinforce that stance by stating that women your own age represent not persons in their own sense but motherly figures to you. I'm not going to tell you which age bracket you should date, but please take notice of this. Women of all ages will stay clear of anyone who looks upon them as not individuals but sexual objects. You will not attract anyone regardless of age as long as you don't treat her first and foremost as a person you wish to befriend and form a meaningful relation to the mutual benefit of both. Before you even try dating, I suggest you spend some time on yourself. Go to therapy, work on your personal development and social skills, hang out with the women in your social circles if there are any. Get off Reddit and just kill the notion that there's some sort of magic that Reddit could help you with, and work on yourself instead. Story 5. Judging by the original poster's comments and replies, it mostly seems like he is really focused on romanticizing relationships in that age range, as if you can only have something meaningful, pure, and long-lasting if it starts in your 20s. This really emphasizes his lack of experience. You know what's worse than one inexperienced partner? Two inexperienced partners with all the immaturity and changes one goes through at that time in life. One way you could look at it is that dating in your own age range may save you some headaches with immature partners, and a more mature and experienced partner sounds beneficial considering what you're lacking. It might be helpful to view women your age more from that angle instead of the idea that they are old and have baggage, and things won't be special with them because they've been with other men before. Story 6. My honest advice is to be honest with yourself. Try to connect with or casually date someone in this age range for a bit. This might help with some of your fear of missing out, while also deromanticizing women in this age range. It might be the case that if you spend time with women in that range, you find out you actually can't stand them, or that you prefer women with more life experience. Or maybe not. Relationships are, at the end of the day, personal things, and nobody can tell you what will make you truly happy except for you. That said, 2 other things to consider. 1. Even if you are experienced in age gap relationships, a girl in her 20s isn't going to be in her 20s forever. Aging is inevitable. Most women are going to be extremely turned off if you have an inferiority complex about not having any dating experience. Story 7. I think you need to interact with people your own age enough to sway your mentality or thoughts away from them being a mother figure. You have created that connection in your mind. You can uncreate it. Story 8. You like what you like, man. It's not like these are underage women. That said, you need to really look at yourself in the mirror and be honest with yourself. Do you have any qualities a 20-something woman, someone who has more options than any of us can imagine, would find desirable? Be honest. You most likely need to knock yourself down a peg, check your ego, and give women your age a chance. I would bet good money you just like the younger girls because of their beauty and would hate actually being in a relationship with them. Story 9. I think this runs a lot deeper, and I know it sounds cliche, but you should really consider therapy to unpack a lot of this under guidance. I sense a lot of grief, not just as a caregiver, but for all you missed out on over the period of time. There's a sense of loss I'm picking up from you, your social development, that you've perceived to have paused in your mid-20s and only now through life's changes have been able to press play on, is just that, in your perception. In your mind, it may be that you feel attracted to what you knew then, before all the responsibilities and duties were put on your shoulders. I get it, as a caregiver myself for over 20 years. It can be hard to see the world pass you by like the blink of an eye, and yet we remain in the same place. It's hard to get your bearings straight. Does that resonate at all with you? It seems like the disconnect you're feeling is complex and rooted in more than what you're presenting on the surface. Grappling with all this, comparing yourself to others, it's all just robbing you of what you do have. In terms of your environment now, yes, people our age do tend to get stuck in their ways or bogged down with the weight of responsibilities on their shoulders too. That was you as well not too long ago, so be kind. Look at it from a different lens with a little compassion and empathy. I have gained friends from a broad spectrum of ages, but it's their personalities and traits that are both unique and similar to them across the board that I resonated and connected with. I have dear friends in their mid-50s through to much younger. I try not to label people into boxes, just as I don't enjoy being labeled myself. I've met wonderful people this way, and I see them all for who they are. Kind, funny, intelligent, witty, and beautiful people. Grouping people only otherizes them and us. There's a lot to break down with this. Do consider seeking professional help with it. It will give you better tools to navigate your new life now and help form healthy social connections from a healed place, so you can form solid, good relationships ahead. Story 10. First off, I want to say that my mother-in-law cared for her dying parents in her 40s, and she let it ruin her life. She went into stasis for a decade, became an alcoholic, and now at 70 years old still talks about it. It ruined her relationship with her daughter, my wife, because my mother-in-law just can't stop living in the past and complaining that her life should have been different. Which is to say, I totally understand what you're talking about, and I don't want to discount that. Here's some tough love. Your post is full of limiting beliefs, self-doubt, and excuses. Let's say you do take a 24-year-old on a date. I guarantee you're going to sound exactly like you did in this post, and that's not going to go well. A guy in the comments here said it makes him want to kill himself, and I don't blame him. Believing that you're not good enough, less than, or generally lacking, and assuming someone in their 20s will be more okay with that than someone your age, means we're just already talking about the wrong thing in that case. It's not attractive to anybody, and thinking you need to date down a generation because you somehow have their life experience isn't going to solve that. You view women your own age as mother figures because you think you're not good enough and have no references to prove otherwise. According to you, you have no references in general for anything, so why wouldn't you let yourself believe it? I get that. You need to do something, if only in order for you to build your own identity. Find a hobby, travel, volunteer at a homeless shelter, run a 5K. There is a lot of information on how to become an interesting person and how to become a more driven, successful person. But for 2024, I would write down a bunch of doable, interesting goals such as running a 5K, joining an adult soccer league, getting a new job or promotion, working out 4 times a week, etc. that don't include women. Do something, and I think you'll be surprised at what happens along the way. When you meet a woman, and I don't care what her age is, it turns out you'll have something to talk about. Not just substance to your life, but also a belief in yourself and where you're going that's going to make them want to listen and be with you. I'll add that the data is pretty conclusive that women at a given age are attracted to men that are pretty close to that age, while men at a given age are attracted to women in their early 20s. Always and forever, I would get over the concept that you're somehow doomed because you like women in their 20s. No kidding. However, as much as I want to tell you that's normal, you're using it as a crutch rather than doing the real work. Again, if after doing the work you connect with a 24-year-old, good for you. Just don't try and connect with a 24-year-old because you think you don't deserve other women or they won't like you. Turns out the 24-year-old won't like that either. Story 11. It doesn't sound like your problem is age range. Your issue is you objectify people too much. You've categorized women as non-playable character groups. They're people with thoughts, feelings, and experiences outside of your own perception of them. When dating people, instead of looking for how they can provide you what you lack, which may be companionship, it would be better if you saw it as this journey of discovering the layers of complex humans. Dating is about boundaries and learning the complexities of others. Relationships are about seeing beyond yourself, having awkward conversations, and understanding someone else might need to be loved in a completely different way than you. Story 12. Looking at some comments, I also think it would be a good idea to date different age groups. Put yourself out there. Look forward and learn about yourself. Savor the experience of whoever you dated and where you felt it went right and wrong. If your community is boring, you could try to find somewhere online like Discord to see others with similar hobbies. Or try new things you think are exciting. And this suggestion is in no way implying that you are a creep, but having been held back for years sounds like you have a lot to unpack. Therapy is helpful for that. It is a safe place to explore topics and thoughts without judgment. Unlike the internet, finding a male therapist around your age could be helpful. I hope it works out for you. Story 13. Go to therapy to come to terms with yourself first, and this should also be what you talk about. There's a reason they seem motherly to you, and that's probably not because of looks, 40 is not old, but because of success and maturity. You are emotionally immature and know you couldn't handle a woman your own age. I'd say most men your age might be attracted to 20-year-olds physically but be repelled by the age gap simply because of maturity. It's like dating a kid, not literally. And that's probably what you want because that's what you missed out on. Story 14. Is a perfectly fit 20-year-old more physically attractive? Usually, yes. That never changes. That feeling never goes away. However, the fantasy of actually interacting with a person that age does go away when you start realistically thinking it through. Do you want to talk to a 20-year-old about how all your interests are the same as her dad's and how everything she says is low-key or fire? Seriously, that is exhausting. If you're very lucky, you can find a woman who looks you in the eyes with hunger and love. That is attractive. That's harder to find every year from now on for you. Bud, make that your goal or you're going to be shopping for escorts. Story 15. All of you suggesting that he try to date a 20-year-old. Do you really believe a young, attractive 20-year-old is going to date a 44-year-old man with no experience? That's a joke. He needs to get over himself. Story 16. Have you dated women in their 20s? I'm not saying this would work, but honestly, I doubt you'd be that attracted to some after dating them. Sure, you may find them hot still, but you'll see there's probably a massive gap in maturity and life stage. I mean, you're either going to keep finding them attractive, good for you, or be put off by it. Win-win either way. Plus, this seems more like an issue of reminiscing, but you're still alive. Live your life. Do what you want to do now without wasting more time reminiscing. I mean that in the nicest way possible. Story 17. Comparing your life to other people's will make it harder to be happy. I was like you. No romantic partner until age 38. Logically, I thought I was doomed because to find a woman with the same experience in relationships as me, I'd have to date someone much younger. I watched my friends pair up, have kids, then their kids get boyfriends or girlfriends all before I ever had a romantic partner. I'm now in my first relationship with an older and more romantically experienced person than me. I guess it took someone like that to pursue me since I am obviously incapable of doing that myself. I guess you feel almost like a different species to everyone else. I know I did for most of my life. That's not true though. Story 18. One podcast I was listening to had a therapist explaining how common it is to try to find the most beautiful or handsome person. The logic went something like this. If I can get that beautiful or handsome person to love me, maybe then I can love myself. It's like finding external validation for self-love. Of course, it doesn't work.